Welcome, reanimated fans, to this week's podcast. I'm H.A. Conrad, coming to you from Brooklyn with my intrepid co-host, Stuart Tiffin from the West Coast. Hello, Stuart.
Good day, AJ.
Today, we're going to be talking about the next couple of episodes from Revival. And ahead of that, we little bit light on the news this time, but a really kind of a fun little announcement, which is that the new The Queens of the Dead film that Tina Romero is directing. And did she write it as well, Stuart? I don't know. Anyway, it is going to have a theatrical release this coming fall. Not too many details on the exact dates, but it's going to be in theaters. I'm wondering how widespread the release will be, but I am definitely going to be looking out for that in New York. I have a feeling it feels like it would be in like a Nighthawk kind of a thing, so I'm hoping that it ends up there.
Yeah,
So that could be a lot of fun. And so I'm looking forward to that. I've been hearing good things, so I'm definitely supportive of it. I have a feeling there's probably a lot more camp than typical, in the more in the Romero camp fashion. So kind of excited about that. Hopefully it'll make it your way too, Stuart, though I know it's sometimes harder, depending on what happens with the releases for you to be able to see it in the theater. And our recent experiences, I don't know that they've been all that positive, but
who, me?
especially for
No.
you.
Yeah, this doesn't seem like the kind of movie that would necessarily get theatrical release here, but we'll see. If it does, we'll do what we do.
Yeah. And so that really is pretty much it for the news this week.
Well, two other small
Oh,
mentions include Zombies 4,
I didn't know if you
Dawn of the
wanted to.
Vampires came out
Okay.
and I
I
watched it as, family movie night. And I gotta say, while my children will sit and watch just about anything because they are children, I don't think it was as good as the other three. I'll just say it.
Okay, this is really funny because for a long time you did not admit to watching these little things. So
I
I
think for a long
was
time I scoffed at the idea of them because they were impure zombie
uh-huh.
content, but since having to watch The Descendants and now these, honestly, what's great about these movies, the whole franchise, is the choreography. The music can sometimes be pretty good too, but the choreography for their numbers is just like it's good stuff. It's fun. They're all dancing in the streets with some aliens, get over it.
Well, I was trying to allow you, to not have to own up to it. So I was trying
I'm
to
not ashamed,
protect,
HJ.
I
It's
was trying to protect your rep.
everything is
Anyway,
content.
I've not watched them, but these are things that Bill might enjoy because there's choreography. So
Oh, yeah, these are not zombie movies the way you and I think of them. I mean, my
yeah,
daughter's 8 and she loves these movies. So,
that's awesome. So anyway, so this is, but I guess they're continuing on, and there's like a cast change, is what I saw.
yeah, because Milo and Meg, the two current lead actors, are starting to show that they're not teens anymore.
How old are they? 30s?
I have no, they're probably at least in their 30s, yeah. And so they've introduced a couple of new character actors and younger actors to go with these new characters, and they seem to be setting them up to be headlining Zombies 5. But can it be called Zombies 5 if there are no more real zombie characters in it? I don't know. We'll see. I'm also my prediction is mer people,
Mer people.
mer
Like,
people in the next movie.
you don't think witches? Because that's usually, or werewolves? No?
They did werewolves in movie 3, so
Okay. Did they do witches yet? Usually it's the
or
show
movie
witches.
two, was it? Maybe two, it was movie two. Either way, we've done zombies, we've done werewolves, we've done aliens, we've done vampires now, and something called daywalkers, which are apparently distinct from vampires, but similarly afflicted. And then at the end of this one, there was I'm not gonna say I don't want to spoil it because it just came out, but there's something that suggests aquatic.
Okay, fair, fair. Um, I still think, it's usually the things that make the rounds. It's zombies, werewolves, witches, and then vampires. Yeah. So
Well,
it's all those things. I feel like mummies are zombies of a type. They're kind of a subgenre
possibly,
of zombie.
possibly.
Fair?
Well, this series has always bucked convention, AJ. They're they're real mavericks,
I don't know
honestly.
what the swamp monsters and things kind of fall into that category. Or like Gadhira. I guess Gadhira is more like super monsters, so less, it's like a little different. But anyway,
And then I also wanted to just mention that Ziam, the Thai Muay Thai style zombie movie has dropped on Netflix, and that is now available to watch,
all right. Well,
which is on our short list of now at least two different Thai zombie movies that we need to watch at some point in the next.
we have those, and then there's the Korean show that came out in like January too.
Yeah,
So with the person from the singer from one of the singers from Blackpink.
right.
So we have a few things on the list to check it out. No, not I keep wanting to see something about Kingdom, but
Nah,
that's not happening. You know how I miss the hats, but
yeah, we all miss the hats,
we
and All
all
of Us Are Dead. Season two is
I know. So,
I don't know what I mean. There have been so few updates on that show, but they've been talking about it like it's coming out. So maybe 2027.
all right. Well,
And without any other further ados,
yes,
let's
let's
talk
get it.
about episodes 4 and 5. Run Along Little Lamb is episode 4 of Revival. And what all happens in this episode, HA? Where do we start off?
So there's a little bit more like there's a little bit more with Aaron and his wife. Um Nithia is Aaron Weimar's wife who has is battling cancer, and there's like a whole break-in scene with a masked man. It feels, I don't know, like I would hope you would know somebody was in your house. He's not exactly super stealthy, but because he's rifling, like he's definitely rifling through things in the house, and there's like this kind of convenient, like she's walking through the house like, hello, hello, and then he steals a flash drive and takes off, and I think he reveals, like weirdly reveals his face a little later.
In the second episode we
Oh, it's in the
watched.
second episode.
Yeah.
Okay. But it is like kind of a big guy. Anyway, Nithya doesn't catch him and does it just, kind of feels like something bad has happened. Um, but
He takes a flash drive, and then we also see that he's delivered it to the journalist from the opening scene of the show, May Tao.
yeah, but he doesn't like do it in person. He just like leaves it on her
Leaves
seat.
it on the car of her, the seat of her car. Yeah, and I honestly did not recognize her because it's been several episodes since she's been featured. So I was like, "Who is this again?" And then yeah,
Yeah.
May
Yeah,
May Tao. So this is somebody's trying to put some sunlight on something. If you're introducing the plucky investigative reporter.
right.
This is definitely not her story though, because
Yeah.
that's all we see of her in this episode.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're not playing that out. She's kind of like it taking a back seat, so to speak, to all the other stories. But M is like talks to Dana about the vision that she's had about seeing Blaine, and she's really, trying to convince Dana that this is something real that she's seen and that he was there, and she is very convinced that he knows something about what happened to her that night. And I mean, look, the guy is pretty creepy, so I don't think
Sure.
that I mean, he's so creepy.
I mean, if you're
Um,
going to jump to conclusions about people, he's probably worth jumping to a conclusion about. But M throughout these episodes, or certainly this one, is so damn sure that people have like wronged her, and she's like making accusations left and right.
Right. And it's also, there is a little bit of, I mean, I feel like Dana does have some skepticism because of M's state of mind before all of that happened. So she's definitely willing. I think she does want to see what happened with her, but I definitely think she's a little bit, there's still a little bit more like she's trying to piece it together and isn't really totally drawing any conclusions yet. But they go out to Blaine's compound. I guess that's the best thing that you can call it. And I gotta say, pretty creepy, pretty creepy. There's like the chain link fence and like dudes with guns like guarding things. And it feels honestly to me interesting because like this is something you would think they don't Dana doesn't seem like entirely like shocked by this because I guess it feels like there's like a lot of knowledge about the fact that this guy is kind of a culty, strange dude, right? This doesn't seem to surprise her at all. That there's these guys kind of like guarding things. So I feel like Blaine is really taking on um like they're leaning so hard into this trope of the creepy cult leader that I feel like there's got to be like a secondary story or something behind this, not just him.
Yeah.
And in any case, he eventually comes out and talks to them. I think did you find it difficult to like they took what he said at such face value. It felt kind of weird that they believed him. It's like he's like, "Yeah, I saw you on the bridge because I was like getting a car, but I left you there or something like that." Like, okay, like so he's so strange. Everything's so weird. Like he's got basically weird far like extreme dudes with guns and they're kind of having this casual chat and I just it feels like odd to me that they would be so accepting of his story. I guess they don't have anything else to go on and they certainly don't have proof otherwise, but
Yeah,
that
I mean,
that
she goes, Dana goes to corroborate his story, I guess, by going to the next breadcrumb after he gives
yeah.
her some. So maybe that's her like checking into his story, and it does eventually bear out. But yeah, like the just all the red flags are on this guy too. And we also get introduced to this the concept of his like red palm in
Mm,
this scene where I had thought at first that this was blood or like viscera
yeah.
on like actively on his hand, but it turns out it's a burn mark, and I didn't pick up on that until the scene in the subsequent episode that
Yeah, it
we
wasn't totally obvious that it was like a brand.
yeah,
So,
because it
um
just looks like red. And patchy. You can't really tell what it is. And then
yeah.
you also see it a second time, I think, in this episode.
Yes,
On a different guy. But yeah,
so my general feeling is that it almost feels like they're overplaying this to such an extent that I'm kind of like I don't need that. I don't know that they need to lean so hard into this, but I'm, happy to wait to see what happens next.
because you can tell also that yeah, he's not the end all to the mysteries that are happening here. Although it does turn out like he's pretty central, or seems to be quite centrally involved in some element of the mystery because there are several different competing mysteries happening in this show.
True. Um, and
But yeah,
meanwhile,
so
back
they just kind of hear his story and then jog on. And we get to see a scene back at in the city of the cops going around and putting up flyers on businesses and then businesses putting up signs in their windows saying no revivers allowed and things like this.
yeah, and I mean, look, there's definite parallels to certain things happening. There's parallels to like Nazi Germany. There's certainly like it feels like there's a commentary to some extent just about general otherism. And so um M's boyfriend gets his like has to get he gets his license stamped by none other than M's father. And obviously M doesn't he doesn't know M's a reviver, so she manages to like escape this. But there's like direct, immediate impact on this. Like, so if you have this on your license, you're not able to do certain things. You're limited and restricted. And this is, just kind of a way of controlling and tracking the people that are revived and again treating them like they're others, like they're something to be like scared of, a threat. And so you know that's pretty upsetting when you think about it in the context that it's the people's loved ones and things like that. And so
It's definitely there for that purpose. It's interesting that as Wayne comes to Rhodey's apartment to deliver or to like to stamp his ID, he finds Em there and is like, "What are you doing here?" And she doesn't,
no,
unsurprisingly, doesn't volunteer. Like, "Oh, by the way, Dad, I'm also a reviver. You should be stamping my ID too." Of course, she's not going to do that because this is a big secret. But also, Rhodey doesn't call it out at all. I feel like Rhodey changes in my esteem in this episode, and that might also be a false, you know, like a false fork in the road because I'm not convinced that he's not a bad guy. It's because everybody's a suspect, you know?
Well, I mean, I will say just inadvertently, the comics apparently he's not such a good guy, and I think that they reframed him for the show. So I think there's probably some things that may happen with him that aren't necessarily good, but they
Because
are making him.
you've been reading external material, HA.
I not intentionally, it was a review of the show, and it specifically mentions that the different
Ah,
storyline, and I'm like, oh no, and so yeah, not intentionally. So so I do think he's I think that there's definitely some negative things about his character, but we've seen some positive things as well. So
so far it's all positive except for his terrible music. Um, in this scene, also, Wayne delivers the news to his daughter because the wheels of justice turn so fast in this town that
mm,
the assault that she committed yesterday, or maybe the day before at most, has already turned around and become 25 hours of mandated anger management classes.
yeah,
I find this to be quite funny.
me
Uh,
too.
and you know, and considering what a small town this is, because not her anger management therapist is none other than Aaron Weimar's wife, Nithya. Like this town is so small and yet has this enormous population of dead people as we keep
Yep.
meeting new dead people who are
And
also like central to the plot
awful lot of cops, like
so many
enormous
police.
police force.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's so big. Anyway, um,
Yeah. Anyway, so I just thought that was pretty funny that like 2 days later she's already and her appointment is like the next more so 3 days after the assault, she better be in Nithya's office talking to her about her anger management issues, and that was pretty funny stuff. Not supposed to be funny, just is. Yeah. So where are we then? Wayne also has an interaction with Diane, who is she a new character? Did we meet this woman before? Diane being the mayor's wife.
we did not.
Like
So
it's kind of
we heard
weird.
her referred to, like I think the mayor mentions her to the sheriff at some point, but we've never seen her. So this is the first time really. And I'll admit to you, I was like, oh, did we even know about her before? So I feel like the sheriff said something to the mayor about how's Diane or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's about it. So
And speaking of small town and lots of dead people, Diane is yet another person who is dead and revived, who nobody, or at least wasn't well known publicly. It does explain why the mayor has been so vocally pro-reviver in his meetings with the sheriff. I feel like that's not your tropish sort of political response. Usually they'll be caving to the fear mongering and the populism. But in this case, he's been much more like all people need to be protected.
mhm.
So anyway, that's his wife, and she asks not to be put on the registry, and Wayne does not go for that.
Nope, he's very Uh, he is committed to this, and this is a particularly hard thing for him because she brings up the fact that they were very supportive of him during like when his wife died, and she like calls out all the things that she did, and he still does it. So he basically says, you know, that he just can't, which is really it looks like it's a very hard decision for him to make, but basically, obviously they're trying to like set this up so that when he finds out, like, what will his reaction when he realizes M is, and will it be any different than what the mayor's has apparently been? Because now it suddenly makes clear why the mayor has been so pro-reviver. And so that's going, I'm sure that will be an interesting conflict once it actually comes up. Um,
Oh yeah, like is he going to be much more like, oh yeah, let's keep you off the registry because it's his own daughter?
Well, in the next episode, the mayor point blank says something to him and he goes, I would have to do it. So he says that, but I think we've seen his emotional reactions, anything related to his daughters or to Cooper, like I suspect he will have a different reaction, but they're setting that up deliberately. And I definitely have some feelings about them being so like kind of like in your face about it because that seems sort of obvious to me. But anyway, we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
And I will say that we see definitely in the next episode, his reaction to the revivers are not the same reaction that that Blaine and his people are having, and that the governor is having, which is treating them as if they're not human. He does have like certain, he is uncomfortable about them, certainly, but he's not treating them like they're like people that don't have pain or people that don't have emotions or things like that. Um, but we'll talk about that more next. So I want to hear your thoughts on some of that stuff. But back to the anger management piece. Um, so I guess the thing that struck me about M meeting with Nithya, it's like it's incredibly awkward. You know, it's sort of like, you know, small town. Oh, how like I don't know, like M feels like somebody that probably would have requested another counselor in this case. It just feels very weird that she would do this, that she would go through with this. I mean, I
It's
know
such a small town. They don't have more than one counselor.
I guess, but they have 50 police people. Um, but you know, just or like she's not going to tell Nithya what happened with Aaron apparently, but like how can she be vulnerable in front of this person that you know, she has all this backstory and obviously Nithya doesn't know this story, or maybe she does and we don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, Nithya definitely like figures out that she's a reviver and basically says, I won't tell anybody. That
It doesn't
said,
figure it out. Her husband told her.
yeah.
So she is aware that her husband and M have a relationship where they would share this sort of information with each other.
Well, she
And
knew
she knows it's a secret. She's not going to share it. Why, it's sus. It is highly sus.
um it is. And so but you could see the husband saying, "Oh, this is my student, she's troubled," all that thing. So we don't know exactly how much Nithya knows. We just knows that she does know this aspect about it. But I mean, I guess he had to, they were in the same bar and had to, you know, she saw the whole thing
She
happen.
saw the assault too.
So
Yeah,
maybe
what are
he had
the
to come.
odds that your assault is going to be in the same 20 feet away from your anger management therapist?
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
plot thickens with Aaron because Emmons like is definitely on a tear and like really wants to figure out about the wedding ring because she's like on this trail of the mystery. So Aaron claims it wasn't his. She is like, well, the town was shut down. Somebody's gonna have to like maybe they wanted to replace it. So they go to a pawn shop where it's like no reviver allowed. But of course, she's lucky because she doesn't have that on her license. And it turns out that it probably was Aaron. And they discover this because,
Because his TA bought a ring to
or,
replace his
or he bought
wife's
it
wedding ring is
through,
what the guy,
or he
the,
bought it through the TA's email address. Like
the
he,
guy, yeah, and he did it all remotely during lockdown. But the guy, the pawn shop owner says he was replacing his wife's wedding ring. So
yeah.
that's curious. We haven't met Jacob Anderson yet, so we'll have to see how that if he is more to this than they're putting up there. I do think that this whole interaction is ridiculous. The fact that they're just going to walk into the store,
Mhm.
not buy anything, get some like private information from this guy about an illegal sale that he made, and then not offer him anything in return. He's just going to be like, "Have a good day, kids."
Yep.
You
And
know.
also, does he seem like somebody that wouldn't take, like, I just don't think he would give up that information that he's,
No, like he's getting nothing for it. And this is not an industry, the pawn business, where you do things for nothing. Like that kind of goes against, and he doesn't know either of these kids. He doesn't seem like a trusting guy with his no revivers sign in the window. So I
Mhm.
thought that was kind of weird.
Um, and so the saga of Aaron continues. Aaron is like, we see a bunch of scenes of him, you know, just little like back things where like he's talking to somebody on the phone and being like, my office was ransacked, my wife is home, and he seems to be getting incredibly agitated and upset, paranoid, and he like um texts Dana to meet him, and then M is also on his trail, so um they're both like separately basically trying to track Aaron down. But in the meantime, um Dana actually has a date, and this is, I one of the things that I really wish they would be focusing a little bit more on is the Ibrahim and Dana thing, because every scene that they have is so funny and fun, even though it's awkward. So they finally they finally get together on the date, and part of this is because he had overheard her talking to Cooper and I cannot remember the name of the friend,
Jordan.
Jordan. And she's just very kind, and I think she understands the incredibly difficult situation Jordan is in. And I mean, you could just see like he overhears it, and he's all like has the like kind of fuzzies about her, and then really like fully asks her out on a date. Um and then Jordan also talks about like when they're in this interaction, Jordan saying like she doesn't really sleep. And so that's also a little creepy because Data's
Yep.
like, yeah,
Actually is kind of creepy.
yeah,
And
because like,
we've heard now in these, because we're talking about two episodes, two of the revivers say that they feel like something is missing inside them. And that
right.
Jordan is the first one to do that. She says it in this sequence. Also, what's happened before they're inside getting ready to go to sleep is they were out in a tent in the woods, perhaps, or maybe in the backyard, reading a comic, having fun. Um, when the lights go out, the weird chittering happens, and there's a bright light outside the tent. And if it looks like Jordan is compelled to put her hand against the fabric of the tent wall, and going to meet her hand is the shadow of, I don't know, a hoof,
It looks
uh,
like a hoof, right?
and or an alien, sorry, an insectoid type leg. I don't know, man. Either way, it disappears as fast as anything. Cooper's like, "What the heck was that?" Jordan doesn't seem to know, but she does seem a little bit like she's acting exactly the same, but the fact that she seemed compelled to reach out toward it was, hmm, okay. I don't want Jordan to become an evil possessed child. I'm sure H.A. Conrad doesn't either.
No, I don't. I don't want any of the revivers to like be weird, and I don't know. I just don't want them to be um I don't know,
Oh, they will for sure.
demonic. I'm scared that they are.
Oh yeah. 100%. They're all gonna get some sort of instructions, and M will have to try to fight it off. We'll see.
Yeah.
So yeah, that had already happened before they go inside and are talking to Dana at bedtime. And so I guess in this sleepover scenario, Jordan is just gonna lie on the floor in Cooper's bedroom and not sleep the whole night. Yeah, sounds like a great recipe for a disastrous slumber party. But good on you, Dana, for being open-minded.
Yep.
All right. So that is like one night. That's the same night that Ibrahim invites her out on a date, which must be the next day, I assume. But it does kind of go to that scene fairly quickly, I want to say. Um, so like maybe we just fast forward to the next day, or maybe he just comes back even later that night and goes on a date with her. Do you recall how that worked?
No,
It doesn't really matter.
it's a little blurry. Sorry.
Yeah. So and also M, after her anger management therapy session, has had I guess a revelation, an epiphany, a growth moment in therapy. Well done, Nithya, for triggering this. And she decides to get rid of her bangs. I'm not
Hmm.
sure that you can get rid of bangs by doing this, shaving one side of your head and then doing a comb over.
Not really. And
I feel
yeah,
like it takes months to get rid of
it takes a
bangs.
long time to get rid of bangs. I mean, I guess she could have cut them down really, really t close, but that doesn't look like what she
Doesn't
did.
look like what she did there, yeah. It looks like she just took off her bang wig and
Yes, and then shaved her head
suddenly she's
instead.
showing much more of her face. It's a
Yep.
better look for her, I
Yeah,
will say.
much better look. And they also they did like sneakily changed like her makeup so she actually looks different.
Her makeup and her wardrobe, because now she has this skeleton themed hoodie, or maybe that's supposed to be Rhodey's
I don't know.
hoodie. But she's like, I'm gonna go out into the woods and find Aaron or something like that. And Rhodey's like, I'm not sure this is a great idea. And she goes, I don't need you. I don't need anyone, which is the best thing anybody can ever say about during the course of a story. So that's what she does. She goes out. Rhodey's left there looking a little forlorn, and we haven't seen him again,
Hmm.
have we? Hmm.
Nope, not yet.
I'm not sure how she finds Aaron in the middle of the woods. It- but while Dana and Ibrahim are on their way to get lobster or lick a chicken, which was his preference,
Yes.
she's getting a text from Aaron saying, "I'll tell you everything. Meet me in the woods behind Pacers." And so she redirects them on their date. It's funny that she pulls out a gun and he's like, "Why did you bring a gun on a date?" Like you said, every it's I think a lot of it is down to the actor playing Ibrahim. His
It is.
delivery is really, I mean, she has great delivery too, but he like brings so much of the awkwardness to every interaction when he's like, "Hey, I can hang out in the car. Let's do this." And then like without skipping a beat, he's like, "Oh, I completely misinterpreted this scenario." And okay. She kind of just leaves him in the car and goes off into the woods where
Yeah.
Aaron and Em were already kind of having a conversation.
Yeah. But it was very cute that he was just like he thought she would be he was like some part of me thought you'd be wearing your uniform on our date, which I thought was cute.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It was I love all their interactions and I think you might be right. I think he is like a really fun actor and her deadpan reaction to everything he does is probably what I really enjoy. But I think he's I would watch him in anything. I just think he's so much fun and such a good like his facial expressions are just like he does not have to say a lot, but what he does say is delivered in a really excellent way. So I really I just want more of it, I guess. And their interactions to me is a sort of like a little bit of the comic not comic relief, but it's just lightens up the whole atmosphere for the most part. And he's played by Andy McQueen. Sorry,
Yeah.
mention that. So yeah, I was a little troubled by how easily they were finding this guy in the woods because it's like what kind of landmark do you give? Like by the pine tree? Like I don't know that they had exact specifics, or was it like supposed to be where the horse was? I don't know. That was a little weird.
Well, apparently it's on Lester's property, so
Right.
which we find out in the next episode anyway. This guy Lester keeps popping up, doesn't he? What's that about?
So, um, but anyway, it all goes terribly wrong. Um, M
Yeah.
M meets up with Aaron first, and he does admit to kidnapping her, but says he didn't do anything to her. He says he led her somewhere or something like that, but that he did not kill her. And then and just as he's about to like kind of give the the all the details, he gets shot conveniently by some dude in black in the woods. And then Dana arrives and sees what's happened, but it's very surprised to see M there. And then we hear a shot ring out and like this kind of predictable thing because it's like it shot through M and then went through Dana, I guess.
Or the other way
The
around.
other way
Yeah.
around. Um, oh, it was the other way around. But you know, it's and that's sort of like a cliffhanger that they ended on where she's like Dana's shot like in the mid like does not look good. And M is just really upset. I was a little bit um curious about where Ibrahim was in this moment.
Just sitting in the car, it seemed like but then again, you hear several gunshots. Maybe not everybody's going to get out of the car and run toward.
Right. And then that leads us into the next episode, which is called Triage, and it just kind of continues on, and we see that Dana's been rushed to the hospital, some kind of predictable like hospital scenes where it's like all fuzzy and lights and confusing. And we do see a bit of a flashback where Dana has begged Ibrahim not to tell anybody that her sister was there. So he knows something's up about that, and he's not sure maybe what it is. And I do like how they handle that. Because Dana is unconscious, so they're doing their normal police thing. And again, predictably, her father is the sheriff is getting like very worked up. And I do like how they don't really mess around. Like he directly says, like, do you think that I'm not going to be involved? Like that's just not happening. And so he sort of allows some veneer of like the investigation to happen, but it's very clear that he's going to be involved. But part of why there's an issue is that apparently Dana's like I don't know how they would even come to this conclusion that somehow they struggled and she shot herself or like the whole thing
No,
sounded
they have some weird throwaway explanation for this, which is that the guy who from the pilot, again, another dead guy is to blame for this. The
right.
guy who woke up in the incinerator. And based on the scars that we see on the masked man later in this episode, maybe that's him?
Maybe, but how does that even work?
Who
Because
knows? We don't know anything about this guy until Brent mentioned him in this episode, right?
like
Because he's like, oh yeah, the gunshot residue. Ever since that guy woke up in the incinerator, he hasn't been quite right. That he like blames it on maybe their ballistics expert is the guy who woke up in the incinerator. I'm not sure. But yeah, there he makes that call about how Dana is in potentially the only shooter. He makes that call from the crime scene without having done any forensics, as far as I can
right, and
tell.
it seems kind of far-fetched and ridiculous. So I do like that, they're questioning Ibrahim just about everything. And, you know, Brent is like the funniest interrogator ever, the deputy, because he's
He's trying to be like the music is creepy. He's trying to be like tough cop, but he's also Brent.
yeah, and it's very did you get I kind of got like Fargo vibes a
I
little bit,
think they're trying for him to be,
right?
yeah, maybe he's from the northern border of Wisconsin with Minnesota. Yeah.
Right. And so and I do like like Ibrahim's reactions here, and he, says she got a text, and it's this is actually a pretty funny scene. But I will say he's wants to get alone with M because he does want to get more answers. And I do love when he's basically like, okay, I'm doing this for Dana because she asked me to, but I don't know you and I am a horrible liar. And he says that like multiple times. Like he's like, I think I'm gonna crack. I thought that was like he's like one of the best parts of the show.
He is for sure. He
And
definitely does better in his Brent interview than when he's faced with the sheriff, like a couple scenes later.
correct. So we still have, that sort of tension because M doesn't really tell him anything really. Um and that's like
But his conversation with them leads her to realize, and her conversation, I think, with her dad leads her to realize that she's still got a bullet inside her. Plus, she's had a scene in a bathroom where she's like, there's no exit wound. There's still a bullet inside me. And that might be the key to solving the case. So,
right. So to prove that it's not Dana's gun, they need the ballistics. Also, even though it's pretty disgusting, also probably the other funniest scene is with her roommate having to like all the stuff with her roommate in this episode is honestly it's hilarious because the roommate is so disgusted by having to do this and she keeps almost like throwing up. Her reactions are kind of amazing,
yeah.
and they're not unlikely reactions, but they are just pretty funny. And so she kind of goes from being this character that was, incredibly, you feel, at least I did, feel very negative towards her. And there is some kind of redemption here because she is trying to help out M and doing incredibly disgusting things. And um even just getting the bullet out and then having to go to the morgue to get blood to put on the bullet, which by the way, I appreciate this level of detail because I was kind of like, what are you gonna do? Like get blood for, how are you gonna get Aaron's blood? I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice little side quest.
So they're paying a lot of attention to this part for sure. They haven't done anything to suggest why Dana would not have any gunshot residue on her
Right.
hands or jacket sleeve.
That's why I was really bothered by this whole theme. It just seemed dumb to me.
So
Like,
it's like they've got half the forensic stuff figured out, but they're just going to ignore some of the other parts of it, and that's fine for television. I agree though with you that Kay turns around here, and it's also interesting that M goes to her for help here instead of Rhodey, who feels like a more natural choice because he's in on a lot of her secrets already. I guess so is
so he
Kay.
doesn't mind sticking his fingers into
Yeah,
that.
he's okay with sticking his hand inside himself at least. Maybe his girlfriend would be a different story, but are they still even a boyfriend and girlfriend because she kind of broke up with him and stole his hoodie?
Yeah, kind of. So, they've got that quest with K and M, and then there's the other confrontation between the mayor and the sheriff, and that's actually a pretty telling confrontation. And so um, the mayor is incredibly upset that his wife is on the registry, and he is basically, almost saying exactly the same things that she said, just about why the sheriff should support them, and he's like very upset that he didn't. And he also invokes the whole thing about the fact that they gave him so much support. And the sheriff's just like, yeah, we have to do our jobs, and this is what part of it, as much as it's like horrible. And this is the part where it's a little bit like hitting to me. It's like, a little too direct, but basically says, what would you do if it was, one of your family? And he's like, I would do the same thing. And so we have to see if that actually
We'll have to
plays out. I think
see.
we know it won't, but
Yeah.
because there's another thing that he says just related to the investigation and everything else, in that, or another police officer says that the Cypresses like to bend the rules. And, so we've seen that with his involvement in this investigation. There's an implication, though, that the Cypresses do things a little bit differently, and maybe slightly outside of the lines. They color outside the lines. And we saw that with Dana and one of the whatever the brother's name was that she had arrested, and her whole manipulation of that situation. Um, so I'm wondering if bigger stories are going to come out about that. So that it just seems like that wasn't just an offhand remark. I think we're meant to sort of take that in, and there's going to be something that comes up later. There's a little bit of a threat with the mayor too when he threatens the sheriff. Like, he basically was like, "I'm going to make sure that you don't get elected again." And there is some like almost like, I know it's even more than this. Maybe there's other things that he knows. Like, it almost felt slightly like blackmail implications, right?
Hmm.
So,
Could be.
um, yeah. And then, what else do we have to cover this
Can
episode?
we
Oh,
just do a quick shout out of the egg beater that was part of the tool array for
yes,
digging into M's back? I
that was part
really
of what was funny. It was like, what are you doing with
There's
that?
an egg beater next to the knife, and then she picks up the salad tongs and she's like, "We're not making a salad." I mean, this is just good writing.
Yep.
So I was really happy about that scene. And yeah, Kay clearly brings uh some comedic chops to this too. We've had a couple of scenes. We also forgot to mention in the last episode there was at least one scene with the Czech brothers getting a call from Big Brother Anthony or Tony, and he's in Hell's Kitchen, and he's like, "I'm coming back to Wisconsin, but in order to do that, to get across the border, we need to work with your cop that you used to go drinking with." I don't remember what the deal is. There's some sort of big deal that he's coming to help navigate. There was less to this reveal of who Tony is than I was hoping for. I didn't recognize him, but he does beat a guy up with a phone, so
Yep.
that's pretty good.
You see his how hard he is, how
Yeah.
intense he
It's like,
is.
what's with all the negative vibes, bro? And then he beats the guy up. It's pretty great. Um, and it turns out the cop who well, we can assume that the cop that they used to drink with is McCrae because I feel like there's a flashback to that scene
Mm,
right before a shot of McCrae later in this episode.
yeah.
We've also had a couple of scenes of this older lady reviver. In the last episode, she was getting her ID stamped by Brent, and then this episode, she's at an aerobics class, and some of Blaine's guys, like at a community center, we could guess,
Yeah.
some of Blaine's guys are putting up flyers and are harassing her during one of the classes.
Yeah, and I have to say, since you're a reviver and I mean, I'm not, you know, making any judgment call here, but it seems like because they're kind of like in a stasis of whatever they were like when they died. So I'm not sure that an exercise class makes sense. And just putting it out there. Um, but I guess she's really into it, so that's fine.
Yeah, maybe it's something she was really into before she died, and she's just continuing the trend.
Oh, she's definitely like, into it.
And
But
she gets reintroduced in this episode. I don't remember where when that aerobics scene happened, if it was this or the last episode, but there's a scene of her at a support group, and the person, of course, doing the support group officiating is none other than the bartender slash childcare provider Nella, who's
she has
also
many
now
roles. Many roles.
support group for Revivers officiator, also in the community center. And so this lady has had her share. Another guy is doing his, where he's talking about God's plan for him. What's the plan? I'm not sure. And Nella's giving him some advice when Blaine walks in with a bunch of his cronies, and they're all carrying weapons. Um, Not sure how this scene was supposed to go if the guy who does react hadn't reacted because they are carrying like axes and
Yeah.
bats, but then when it kicks off, they don't jump into action. Is that weird? Like it
Yeah,
feels
it is
something
really
feels
weird.
weird about this scene. I don't know what the intent was. I mean, obviously the intent is to show things are escalating, but they walk in there with like real weapons and then don't apparently have any intent to use them, which I thought
Yeah,
was
it's like it's hard to I mean, and I would say Blaine is definitely the sort of leader and they're taking it feels almost like they're just trying to be intimidating. But it is pretty weird. Just like I don't know what their end game is here, other than to get them out of the spaces that they feel that they shouldn't be in and to kind of herd them into seclusion. That, I mean, and even how Blaine is sort of categorizing them all as demons, and if Nell is involved with them, she's like a handmaiden of the demons and that kind of thing. And they're trying, it feels like they're itching for a fight, but even when they actually have like grounds, like when they kind of goad one of the revivers into fighting back, they don't really do anything, which is kind of odd, or at
yeah.
least we don't see that they do anything. It just kind of like fizzles there, which is weird. Um,
That feels like the reaction that Blaine was hoping to get in a way is maybe
yeah,
what we could take away from it, but he doesn't do anything with it. And they just kind of end the scene and they're leaving. M, meanwhile, has gone and put blood on the bullet at the morgue. Uh, Brent reports that Weimar was choked before he was shot because that did happen. That was M choking him. Uh, and then K and M place the bullet back at the crime scene while K is like smoking a joint and putting it out on her shoe instead of throwing it because she doesn't want to contaminate the crime scene. Another like just little nod to A, forensics, and B, that K isn't all bad.
right.
Ibrahim is working on his Moore Creek theory when the sheriff comes in to question him. Immediately sees through the lie that somebody else was at the crime scene that Ibrahim is not sharing, but they're distracted from this line of inquiry by the screams of Miles Miller. We've had another scene with Miles in this lab. Conveniently, Ibrahim's office looks out over the secret lab in a warehouse. So they can rush down there, and we've already seen that they've cut a strip of flesh off of Miles. Miles was the reviver with the violent history who Dana
Yeah,
had
the
arrested
weird
in the pilot.
taxidermy hunter dude.
Yeah, and bad teeth.
Yep.
And so now it turns out that Dr. Morell, the lady doctor from the CDC, who was much less empathetic than Ibrahim, has been experimenting on Miles, apparently with some sort of approval from somewhere. In this case, she's using snake venom on him to slow cell division, and it does appear to be having some effects on their healing factor.
But it is very painful, and like what we also saw when they were basically cutting off bits of his flesh, which is pretty disturbing. That I mean, they're in pain. It's not like they don't feel pain. They do regenerate, but it's not as if they're not feeling these things.
Yeah.
It just they heal from it. So the just going by those reactions, the fact that she's conducting these experiments is inhumane, but the point is that she doesn't view them as human, and she doesn't view this as unethical, even though Ibrahim calls her out about it. And in fact, so does the sheriff, even though you can
He's
see
just
he
like,
pauses, you can see
yeah.
he pauses, but
He's like, let's do less of this for now, but I think this
yeah,
is great work. He's actually pretty complimentary.
yeah, I think he's trying to placate her sort of, and get to the like. I think he's not all in, but I think he recognizes that he may need to walk that line a little bit. So, um, but Ibrahim is unequivocal about it. And so um, he eventually gets called to the carpet by the governor, and she gets put in charge of the lab. And he's ordered to hand over everything to her. And so we see that this method is probably going to be what the trend is at this point, or what the norm is. They do tell him to put give all of his samples. And just before this, he had established that the creek was the ground zero, and it does feel like he's hiding some of those samples because he's probably going to need to do some things on his own, right? So I think that this is gradually watching how the view of the revivers is shifting towards this otherness and towards like this inhumane treatment of them, that they're not human. And we've seen this whole theme happen just with how Blaine and his followers treat them, how they're getting basically marked in the community, and they're supposed to be tracked at all times. And so it's kind of a disturbing shift. And it also takes away Ibrahim's authority. And he does eventually, like Dana wakes up and he kind of talks to her about how, yeah, that he's no longer in charge. And he kind of wants to get to the bottom of the mystery. But it, we will have to see what's next, because I don't know. I think we're gonna have to see what happens with Ibrahim in the next one and what he might be doing with those samples. But
But it doesn't seem like Dr. Morell has given him much in the way of jobs to do if he's like immediately back at the hospital as soon as it happened with the governor.
yeah,
Yeah, seems pretty weird that she would have. Obviously, the governor is way too involved in all of this stuff
yeah,
that's going on here, micromanaging at a weird level. Um, we've also had the interaction with the sheriff and Lester, who's been trying really hard to get in and have a meeting with him. And it turns out that Lester saw a guy with a ski mask and seems to have an encyclopedic knowledge of different flashlight models
yes,
because
apparently,
he's like, yo, it was a 3200 lumen, etc. And that leads Sheriff Wayne to be like, it's a policeman. It must be one of my 700 policemen here in the office. So Brent, take everybody's gun and run ballistics.
yeah,
He doesn't do it without screaming in Brent's face about how, uh, you know, like chain of custody or something. It's a little tiring,
yep.
honestly. This element. I don't know if it's the performance or the writing for this character. It's just
I wish
it's
he was a little. I wish he was a little bit less one note. That's all. I
yeah.
think it would be more interesting if he wasn't. We do see a moment where he is like very a little bit vulnerable when Dana's unconscious, but obviously he can't do that when she's awake. So that maybe we'll see more of that, but it doesn't feel like an incredibly um, complex character at this point. So I'm sure that maybe they'll give us a little bit more later.
Yeah. We've also had another scene of the masked man, and this is where we see the scars on his face, around his mouth anyway, and he's looking for Black Deer files. And this had been mentioned in the previous episode. somebody had done the Black Deer case. Do we remember? Were they talking about Dana?
I think so. Um,
Yeah, I think so
so
too. And so this looks like it could be the guy who, I mean, if he was to be scarred, it looks like burn scars. Maybe this is him, but he's also wearing a mask. Also, we never saw that guy when he wasn't on fire. So this is a
well,
strange
this
character.
is this is my question though, because typically the revivers, if they maybe if it was him and if he was in the incinerator, maybe that affected it. But like the revivers, like these had to be scars that happened before, not after they were revived. So maybe the timing wasn't quite right. But
Yeah, maybe he
that's
was burned a little before the reviving kicked in. Who
yeah.
knows?
So
Who knows? There's a ceremony at Blaine's cult camp where they put the kid who had broken his arm in the interaction with the revivers at the community center. They're like, all right, go talk to the bright shining light, and we're gonna chant out here for a while. And so he goes into the back room. This is there's an interaction we don't see the other side of with the creature that was probably outside the tent for Cooper and Morgan's camping session. The kid reaches out toward the light, screams, and he comes back out, and now he's got the red scars on his hand. So feels like a pretty stupid indoctrination because now they just can't use their hands.
yep. Um, and you know. If ever you find yourself in a bar full of chanting weird dudes, I don't know. Maybe just run. This just doesn't seem like a good time.
These guys are well cast. They all look a little bit weird.
Yep,
Like
I'll do.
none of them are too, good looking.
Yep.
Their hair is maybe a little bit off. Something is weird about every single one of these guys. So hats off.
And with this character that had broken his arm, we used to like see a little bit of a trepidation on his face. He looks absolutely like maniacal when he comes out and like full all in. My thought that was maybe that he was an undercover like cop trying to like infiltrate them.
Yet another cop from
Yep.
Wausau.
Yeah, because they've got 50 of them. They can afford some undercover dudes. But he does look like he's all in, so we'll have to see what happens with him. And then back at the ranch, they've been conducting all of their forensics experiments, and they do end up with a suspect, which again, it seems almost too convenient. But it is the wonderful McCrae who is just so well liked around the station. And so he's like singing in his car and they Gunderson uh Brent Gunderson pulls him over and or they come up on him because he's just kind of sitting there, right? And so they arrested him and the the car is like full of body parts, like a foot. It's like, is that a foot? So lots of explaining to do here for McCrae. And then Dana, like they isn't surprised to learn that, or like Brent tells her it's McCrae, right? And he's like, who knows what he does or whatever. So we'll have to see what happens with with this particular development. But I just think there's some things I really like, but the things I like the most are the Ibrahim moments. And so again, I just want to focus a little bit more on his. I do find the cult piece kind of boring. And it feels like a like just red herring.
Yeah. And also with the sheriff's anger stuff.
Yeah,
I think it'll be pretty easy for the audience to figure out if McCrae is actually the culprit. Unless he's also a reviver, he should have a gunshot wound in his right arm
right,
or shoulder area. But just because it was his gun doesn't mean that he didn't have his gun taken and used by somebody else. Maybe a Czech brother, who knows?
right.
Or it could be Rhodey, who, if he had been shot, you wouldn't be able to tell. And that's one of the tricky things about this storytelling, which I kind of like, is
Yeah.
um,
But I also have a big question. I mean, Lester's out in the woods. He sees everything. I mean, maybe he was helping Dana, but he doesn't make any appearance. So if Lester was out in the woods and saw the attacker, then he would have known M was out there too, and he doesn't say anything about that. He doesn't seem to go help Ibrahim or Dana or M. So I have some questions about how and how he saw these things and why he didn't go to help.
Hmm.
It feels a little weird. Either maybe somebody shared something with him, but he like his story. I feel like there's more to that story that maybe we'll find out later.
Yeah, the story certainly pointed them right toward it being
Right.
a cop. So that yeah, it could definitely have been him helping the investigation get to an inevitable conclusion. We will see the next time we talk about Revival, which will be episode 6. And mm, we know what that one's going to be called? It's going to be called Bloodlines. So I hope that you come back and join us again the next time on Reanimated as we continue to talk about Revival. There's 10 episodes in this season, and we will talk about each and every one of them.
Right. We're going to take a minor break due to some travel, just a 1 week break, but then we will be back to talk about the next couple episodes in line. So let us know what you think. We appreciate you listening, and see you next time. Bye bye.
Toodaloo.